Okay, so ready to dive into Marie Curie's life. And I don't mean just the textbook stuff. We're talking the real deal here, the nitty-gritty.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is going to be less about memorizing dates and discoveries and more about getting inside the head of a woman who, let's face it, smashed through more barriers than most.
Absolutely. And with this biography excerpt you found, we can really dig deeper, beyond the lab coat and into what made her tick.
Exactly. This is about the drive, the relentless pursuit of knowledge. So where do we even begin with someone like Marie Curie?
Well, I think what's often overlooked is how Curie's journey begins with this fascinating blend of, you could say, privilege and hardship. Born Maria Skłodowska in Poland, under Russian rule no less, education, it was everything in her family.
Yeah, her father, right. He was a teacher himself, math and physics.
Exactly. And he instilled in her this deep, almost insatiable curiosity. Just imagine him bringing home lab equipment when the Russian authorities had banned it from Polish schools. Talk about going the extra mile. But, and this is where the hardship comes in, tragedy really marked her early life too.
Right, the loss of her mother and a sister, both to illness when she was so young.
And that had a profound impact, shifting her away from the Catholicism of her upbringing towards agnosticism. This experience with loss, I think it really shaped her worldview.
It makes you think about how those events, especially early on, can really light a fire in someone. It's like, have you ever known anyone who achieved great things who hadn't faced some serious hardship?
It's an interesting thought.
But yeah, speaking of drive, let's talk about Curie's thirst for knowledge, because in Poland at the time, higher education for women, forget it, essentially outlawed.
It was extremely limited, to say the least.
So what does she do? Joins the underground flying university, a secret network of academics risking it all, their freedom, for education.
Secret classes, constantly on edge, talk about committed to learning.
Yeah, and as if dodging the authorities wasn't enough, there was the whole issue of, well, money. Curie and her sister, Bronislawa, they struck a pact, right, to support each other's education no matter what.
An incredible testament to their bond and their shared belief in each other's potential.
Totally. So Bronislawa heads off to Paris for medical school. Marie works her tail off to support her, sending what little she could.
And the idea was that Bronislawa would return the favor when she got settled.
Talk about a power duo. And Paris, well, as I say, is where the magic happens.
Right. For Curie, it became the city of dreams, but also the city of struggles.
For sure. I mean, picture her in her early 20s, arriving in this bustling city, determined to make a name for herself. But life wasn't all, cafes and romance. She lived incredibly frugally, pouring every ounce of her being into her studies at the Sorbonne.
There are even stories of her, forgetting to eat. That's how engrossed she was in her work.
Wow. That level of focus, I can't even imagine.
You have to wonder what it was like being in that lab with her. Was this palpable intensity or more this quiet determination, Fascinating to picture.
Absolutely. This wasn't just someone going through the motions. She was living her pursuit of knowledge. And we're not talking just one degree, she earned 2. Physics and chemistry, all while, remember, supporting herself through tutoring.
Talk about a work ethic. And of course, it's in Paris that she meets Pierre Curie, a meeting that, well, it would change the course of science forever.
Their shared passion, it blossomed into this incredible love story, a true meeting of the minds. But their relationship also kind of highlights the societal hurdles Curie faced. Because initially, she planned to return to Poland, right?
She did.
But when she tried, she encountered, blatant discrimination as a female scientist. Academia just wasn't ready for a woman of her caliber.
Their loss, for sure. But thankfully, not for science as a whole. Makes you wonder how many brilliant minds throughout history get overlooked or pushed aside, just because they're women or because of their background.
It's crazy to think about. Makes you wonder how many scientific breakthroughs we might have missed out on, Just because those in charge couldn't see past their own prejudices.
Absolutely. And, Curie's story, it wasn't just about overcoming those external barriers. It was about pushing the very limits of scientific knowledge itself.
Right. This wasn't just some, intellectual exercise for them.
Yeah.
Their work on radioactivity was downright revolutionary.
Oh, absolutely groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, before the Curies, the atom, it was this tiny, indivisible unit, or so they thought.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how big of a deal that was, discovering polonium and radium.
Huge.
Yeah.
Those elements emitting energy, seemingly spontaneously, that just threw everything for a loop.
Talk about turning the scientific world upside down. I mean, their discoveries laid the groundwork for nuclear physics, for radiation therapy and medicine. I mean, it's hard to overstate their impact.
It really is. And to think they were doing all this in a makeshift lab, right?
Yeah, practically a shed. with almost no understanding of the dangers of, well, radiation poisoning.
It's kind of terrifying when you think about it. Curie was handling tons of pitchblende, this heavy, messy ore, all to extract these tiny amounts of radium.
It's amazing they lived as long as they did, to be honest.
And tragically, those years of exposure, it took a toll. Contributed to Marie's death, in fact.
It's a stark reminder that progress often comes with a price. It really makes you grapple with that balance, between pushing boundaries and the risks involved. Their dedication was incredible, really.
They were pioneers in the truest sense of the word.
And then, as if things weren't tough enough, just a few years after they win the Nobel Prize in Physics, tragedy strikes again.
Pierre's death. A terrible accident.
Sudden, unexpected. It's hard to imagine the weight of that grief, on top of everything else she was carrying.
And yet, she persevered. Became the first woman to hold a professorship at the Sorbonne. Stepping in Pierre's shoes.
Amazing. But even as she was, breaking barriers left and right, she was facing a whole other battle, just because she was a woman in a field dominated by men.
It's unbelievable the scrutiny she faced. It's like they couldn't handle her brilliance, so they attacked her personal life.
The whole scandal with Paul Langevin after Pierre died.
Right, the press went crazy, painting her as a homewrecker, even resorting to xenophobic attacks, bringing up her Polish heritage, as if it somehow invalidated her.
It's disgusting, frankly. And to add insult to injury, the French government initially passed her over for all those prestigious awards. And then, get this, she wins her second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, and suddenly they want to give her the Legion of Honor.
Which, of course, she refused.
I love that. It's like she's saying, you don't get to ignore me and then try to take credit for my accomplishment.
It speaks volumes about her integrity. And, makes you wonder, was it just sexism? Or did her Polish heritage play a role in their initial reluctance to fully embrace her?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely worth considering.
It is.
And speaking of defying expectations, let's talk about World War I. I mean, here's Curie. She could have easily just hunkered down and focused on her research, right? But she didn't. She chose to use her knowledge to help on the front lines.
Little Curies.
Yeah.
Mobile X-ray units. Just incredible.
The logistics alone are mind-boggling, setting those up near the trenches. And she didn't stop there. She personally trained other women to operate them, including her own daughter, Irene.
Challenging gender roles right there on the battlefield. She was a visionary, realizing that science, it wasn't just theoretical. It could make a real difference in the world.
It's true. And yet, after the war, despite her contributions, saving countless lives with her ingenuity, did she get that official recognition from the French government?
Very little, unfortunately.
It's almost like they didn't fully grasp the magnitude of what she had accomplished. It really makes you think about the ripple effect, right? How someone's work can resonate even when it's not fully appreciated at the time.
Absolutely. And speaking of impact, in the years after the war, Curie's reputation, it just skyrocketed. I mean, she was traveling the world, advocating for peace, for using science to benefit humanity, raising money for research.
Yeah, she even visited the U.S., right? Met with President Harding.
That's right. And he presented her with a gram of radium, which was an incredibly valuable resource at the time.
Can you imagine? Talk about a gift. But, for me, what stands out even more than any award or discovery is how she nurtured the next generation of scientists.
The Radium Institute in Paris.
Exactly. Under her guidance, it became this hub for groundbreaking research. Think about it. Numerous Nobel laureates came out of there, including her own daughter, Irene Joliot-Curie.
And her son-in-law, Frédéric Joliot-Curie. It's really remarkable. She wasn't content with just making these discoveries herself.
Right. She wanted to empower others to do the same, to push the boundaries even further.
And they did. It's like she sparked this chain reaction of brilliance that we're still feeling the effects of today.
A true legacy. It's a good reminder that sometimes the greatest impact we have isn't just about what we achieve ourselves, but it's about the people we inspire along the way, the knowledge we pass on.
Couldn't agree more. And as we look back on Curie's life, this extraordinary life, we do have to acknowledge the sacrifices she made, the toll that her dedication took. I mean, years of radiation exposure, often without the safety measures we take for granted today. It ultimately led to her death in 1934.
Aplastic anemia, right. It's a sobering reminder of the risks these pioneers often took in the pursuit of knowledge. It makes you wonder, would Curie have achieved all that she did, those groundbreaking discoveries, if her path hadn't been filled with so much adversity?
It's a question without an easy answer. Would she have had that same drive, that same fire in her belly if she hadn't faced those early losses, the barriers to education, the constant sexism? Who knows?
It's fascinating to think about, isn't it? Did those challenges push her to prove herself to a world that seemed determined to hold her back? Or did they, in some ways, limit what she might have accomplished if she had been given the same opportunities as her male peers?
It's probably a combination of both, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. But I think one thing's for sure, listening to her story, Marie Curie's story is a testament to the power of curiosity, of perseverance, and a passion for knowledge that just couldn't be extinguished no matter what life threw at her.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you a more complete picture of the woman behind the legend. A woman whose brilliance continues to inspire generations of scientists and, well, anyone who hears her story. Smash that like button.
Please subscribe.
Exactly. We're going to see what makes those effective or not so much.
Thanks for tuning in to History Pod Channel. We hope you enjoyed this dive into history. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from the past. Your support helps us bring history to life every day. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode. What lesser-known historical figures do you think deserve more attention? Get people talking in the comments.
Ooh, I see what you mean. It's not just liking and subscribing, but actually engaging with the topic.
Exactly.
Until next time, stay curious, everyone.